glad you came to talk with me about mindful eating. It's my favorite topic lately, and so valuable, especially at this time of year. I'm curious to know right now, if any of you have had come to my last presentation. I can't really, let me just put up the gallery so I can. Okay, have any of the people that are here now, did you come to the last presentation?
I didn't.
That's not pretty.
No.
Okay. I just want to know, because whether I'll to tailor what I say to who's here. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, today we're going to be talking about eating mindfully. You have to excuse me because I'm toggling back and forth between my slide presentation and your faces. I want to see who's here, and I'm going to ask. I'm just going to ask one question. Did you get the message to bring a little bit of food with you?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah, I would like to do an eating exercise, and you don't need much food, but just a little something, like a mouthful of something to practice with. So while I'm doing my introduction, if you don't have something, if you want to just run and get something, so we can do that together. Is that okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I hope you all enjoyed your holiday season.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Has anybody, I'm going back and forth. Has anybody ever heard of mindful eating before?
Zoom's great, except for the fact that people feel like they need to do it at 10 o'clock on a Saturday now because they can.
Yeah. Well, we're experimenting with the time we do these things. And this is the first time I've done a 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning presentation. But anyway,
sorry, I was actually a comment about something else. So I wasn't meaning this one in general. No, it was just, I've done about 6 of these over the last 2 weeks at random weird times. So that's all. We're all good. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I don't mind. Okay, so I'll just tell you who I am. You can see on my first slide that my name is Linda Buckley. I've got a Master of Science in Clinical Nutrition, and I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist. And I also have been doing yoga since 1970 something. And as part of that, I've been meditating all this time. And I really love doing this kind of a presentation because for me it merges 2 aspects of my life, the nutrition, which I have a very deep understanding of all phases of nutrition, and I've done inpatient, outpatient nutrition counseling, intensive care units, cardiac rehab. I've got a lot of nutrition experience, and I also have the mindfulness and meditation experience from my personal life. And the reason I'm doing this, in case you're curious about it, is that in my nutrition counseling experience, I've met so many people who've tried so hard to do the nutrition thing right, to do the dieting thing right. And unfortunately, it doesn't always work. And it's not because of lack of information. There's a lot of nutrition information out there, and we are a very well-educated society. People can get nutrition information in lots of different places, and a lot of it is very, very good. But there has been a missing piece, and that's where mindfulness comes in. It's not only knowing what to eat, or how much to eat, or when to eat, or how much to exercise. It's also about how we eat and why we eat. And that's what mindfulness and mindful eating is all about. So let's see. One of the things that I do want to say to you is that I hope you enjoyed your holiday season. I hope you and all the people you care about are healthy right now. At this time of the pandemic, there's a lot of uncertainty. Mindfulness can help with that too. So here's what mindful eating is. Have you heard this before? Has anybody heard of mindful eating before? I know people are entering the room as I speak, so I'm just going to see who's here right now. Okay, mindful eating is about using all of your senses. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. In choosing to eat food that is both satisfying to you and nourishing for your body. You know what mindfulness is? Has anybody had any experience with mindfulness? I will tell you that I've gotten training in something called mindfulness-based stress reduction. You may have heard of Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, who started the mindfulness-based stress reduction program at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center. Anyway, I wanted to tell you that I've been trained in teaching mindfulness to people. And what mindfulness is paying attention on purpose to what's going on inside you and around you. I see somebody's got a hand up. Did somebody want to ask a question or say something? I guess I misread what I saw. Okay, I apologize for this. Mindfulness is, okay, Jack has his hand up. Jack, did you want to say something? Or Jack BGR? If you want to unmute yourself, did you want to say something, or did you just?
I just want to say I heard of the mindful eating, mindfulness, but I never thought of as eating before.
Yeah, yeah. Well, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause I heard about for relaxation to sleep, but never thought of it for eating.
Yeah, mindfulness is wonderful for a lot of things, and eating is my area of expertise, and that's where I blend, where I merge the work that I've done as a dietitian with the work I've done in mindfulness. So mindfulness is simple but not easy. It's paying attention to what's going on inside of ourselves and what's going on around us, and when we apply it to nutrition, when we apply mindfulness to nutrition, I will have to ask you, have any of you had any experience with dieting? That's a rhetorical question, because I know almost everybody in our society has had some experience with dieting, including myself. When I first became a dietitian, I said, well, I'm gonna know every diet there is. I'm going to be able to talk to people about all the details of diets and help them to figure out what's right for them. Well, you know what? There's so many diets out there and so many eating plans out there because different things work for different people. So if you think that there's one diet that's good for everybody, I have to tell you, there is no such thing. Different diets work for different people. And so mindful eating is a non-diet approach to eating in a way that makes sense for you as an individual. So it's the merging of good nutrition practice, which is something I'm always going to encourage you to do, with mindfulness. Okay, I just have to ask my assistants here. It looks like my slide presentation is automatically advancing itself. Can you help me with that?
Oh,
or do
sure.
I have to do that myself?
Yeah, it's
It
going
keeps
back and
popping
forth.
to the next slide when I'm, yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Are you hitting the arrows by any chance?
I am hitting the arrows to go back to where I want to be.
Oh, okay. I'm not certain why it would be doing that. You might, if you stop the presentation and then re-go back into it, it might keep it from advancing without you.
I don't want to stop presentation.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose our. Okay, so I'll just keep using the arrows. Okay,
Sure.
so setting intentions. It is the beginning of the new year. I don't want to ask you to tell me what your intentions are, but can I just see a show of hands? Have any of you thought about setting intentions for the new year? I have, you know, because I like to set intentions regularly. I like to think about what I want to manifest in my life, and that's what intentions are all about. One of the things that I want to talk with you about is taking care of yourself. What is self-care? What does that mean to you? Does self-care mean being at a particular number on your scale? Does self-care have anything to do with exercising? Does being compassionate and kind to yourself fit into what you would think of as a valid intention? Do your intentions have anything to do with how you eat? Let's talk about how to wipe the slate clean. Okay, what does nutrition mean to you? What does mindfulness mean to you, if anything? And how can we make it work for you? So how do we merge nutrition with mindfulness? Do you know what the word compassion means? Self-compassion is what I'm going to talk about first here. Self-compassion is noticing how you are, being kind to yourself. Just the way you would be to someone that you loved very deeply. You can be kind and compassionate to the other people in your life, but do you ever take the time to be compassionate, to think about compassion for yourself? Mindfulness of breathing. How often do you stop to notice how you're breathing? Right now. Can you just take a moment to notice your breathing? How mindful are you of hunger? Have to ask the question. Right now, we're talking about eating. Are you mindful of whether or not you're hungry at this moment? We're going to talk more about hunger in a couple of minutes. And being that we so often set our intentions around weight and dieting, do you allow yourself to enjoy your food? Can you define what things, these are rhetorical questions, we can talk about them later, but I just want to plant the seed of the question in your mind. Thinking about satisfaction. What satisfies you? What nurtures you? Did you know that nutrition and nurturing come from the same root word? Satisfying our hunger, satisfying our physical needs is something that we all need. And sometimes when people are in a dieting mode, the restrictiveness of the dieting makes them put satisfaction and enjoyment on the back burner. So let's talk about joy. Let's think about the things that give you joy, the things that give me joy. There's so many of them in our lives. Let's pay attention to them and place value. Now, what I would like to do with you right now, if this is okay, I'd like to give you a little experience of what meditation is like. Have any of you ever tried meditation before? I see one head bobbing. Okay, so this is, there are many different styles of meditation. Meditation is part of mindfulness practice, but eating is part of mindfulness practice, as is movement, as in mindful communication. There's a lot of aspects to mindfulness, and meditation being one of them. And so I'm not going to tell you you have to sit down and be silent for an hour with your legs crossed or anything like that. It's really about paying attention. So I'm going to do a very, very brief mindfulness meditation with you. And the other thing I want to say to you is that there are many different forms of meditation, and the one that I practice and teach is very simple. It doesn't involve foreign words or other religions. It doesn't involve religions at all. It's just about paying attention on purpose. So, so let me just guide you through this. It's only going to take a couple of minutes. And so I'll suggest you get yourself, make sure you're comfortable in your seat. And the reason I'm doing this is because our lives are all so busy and we go from one thing to the next very quickly, and transitions are important. So let's sit quietly together for a few minutes to fully arrive, to be fully present right here, right now. So it's helpful to start by bringing a gentle dignity to your sitting posture, with your back straight but not stiff. Your feet flat on the floor if you can do that comfortably, and your hands comfortably relaxed on your lap or on your knees. Closing your eyes if you feel comfortable doing that, but if you don't feel comfortable doing that, it's okay. Just let your gaze become unfocused. Now take a few deep breaths at your own pace, bringing your attention to the breath in your body, wherever it's most noticeable for you right now. Gradually sense your intention to be here and the feeling of caring for yourself that underlies your reason for being here. Breathing in, say to yourself, I sense my intention to take care of myself. And as you breathe out, say to yourself, may I let go of self-blame. Notice any self-criticism and see if you could sense letting go of it, even if only for a moment. Just hold it with attention and kindness, not trying to be where you are not. And now bring your attention back to your breathing. Breathing in, say to yourself, as I sense my limits and my abilities with kindness. Breathing out, say to yourself, may I let go of impatience. Noticing how when you try to go too fast, the effort may not last. What does it feel like to respect your own rhythm? Letting go of that extra pressure. Taking the step that's doable in this moment to let go of harshness and impatience. Bring your attention back to your breathing, noticing the quality of the thoughts you're having right now as you remain in silence for a few moments. Before I go on, I'd just like to ask for a show of hands if you have any questions or comments about what we just did. I find it very refreshing to just notice my breath, to sit quietly and notice where I am right now. So let's move on. Nobody has anything to say? I'm going to talk with you about hunger. What does hunger feel like? Do you know the difference between hunger and other physical sensations? Whoops. I'm sorry. Okay. There are different places where we feel hunger, and I just want to briefly review those with you. First of all, we often notice the sensation of hunger in the stomach, right? What does it feel like? Do you feel annoying right below your rib cage? You feel a sense of weakness? Do you feel some other sensations in your body? That's the hunger that we feel in the stomach. But what about the hunger that we might feel when we see something delicious? I don't know if you are, if the foods that are on the slide in front of us appeal to you, but if you see something delicious, sometimes the hunger is stimulated by the sight of food. What about smell? I always like to use I use the example of being in airports, although I haven't been in an airport in a long time. You know what Cinnabons are? I think most of us have heard of Cinnabons. Well, I like Cinnabons, I have to admit. And when you go to an airport, they very often have Cinnabons baking, and the smell of them can stimulate hunger very quickly in somebody like myself. So we're talking about another stimulant of hunger. Another one is the hunger of the mind. As a dietitian, I know that a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on what I as a dietitian are going to tell them to do, and that may be eating at a particular time. Have you ever been told you should eat breakfast at 8, lunch at 12, dinner at 5, or any other combination of those things? Hunger, we might be prompted to eat because we think that we should be eating at a particular time. So I just want to have you think about the places that you might feel that might stimulate you to eat, to feel hungry. Okay, so what about fullness? Have you ever thought about the things that make you feel that you've had enough? Where do you feel the fullness? When you're eating, do you recognize in the course of your eating episode whether or not you're satisfied with what you've had? Or do you sometimes go beyond that feeling of what I call satiety, of fullness? Do you sometimes go beyond that? I'm suggesting that you pay attention to that and perhaps use that as one of your cues to stop eating. Know what fullness or satiety feels like, how to recognize it, and to tell yourself, it's okay to stop when you've had enough. I also want to talk with you about the fact that it's okay to enjoy eating. Food, all kinds of food. In my rule book, any food is okay. The slide that we have in front of us shows lots of what we would call healthy foods, the produce, the fruits, the vegetables, the whole grains. But I have to acknowledge that there are many other things that aren't on this particular slide that people enjoy eating. Especially the things that we ate over the holidays. So I'm just telling you that we can have joy in eating. I enjoy cooking, I enjoy feeding people, and I enjoy eating food myself. So there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm giving you permission to enjoy your food, but if you savor it and eat it in a mindful way, then it's less likely to do you any harm. So relax and enjoy your life. So hunger and satisfaction. Again, I mentioned recognizing when you're hungry, but also recognizing when you're satisfied. And giving yourself permission to relax and enjoy life. Knowing also that when we pay attention to how relaxed we are, that is actually a very good thing for stress management. I told you I've been trained in mindfulness-based stress reduction, and knowing that stress is bad for our systems in so many ways. It's bad for our hearts, it's bad for our immune systems. Right now, with all that's going on in the world of medicine, keeping our immune systems healthy is really important. And if we can keep our stress under control, then that's definitely going to help our immune systems. And so that's very important. So that being said, how about we do an eating exercise? Does everybody have something with them that they can munch on? Okay. I'm going to do an eating exercise with you, a mindful eating exercise. So if you have something to eat or to drink, we'll start the exercise right now. I make a really mean apple pie, and I make a really good crust with butter, just so you know what that picture on the screen is for. And I really enjoy it, and so do all the people I serve it to enjoy it. So anyway, if you are ready to have a bite to eat, let's prepare ourselves by getting into that meditative position we were in a few minutes ago when we were doing the transition exercise. Take a few deep breaths and bringing yourself into this moment. Just breathing deeply, noticing where you are, how you feel, and noticing, asking yourself if you're hungry. And if you are hungry, where are you feeling it right now? Just noticing that. And then next, I'd like you to pick up the article of food that you're about to eat. If you can, hold it in front of yourself in preparation for eating. Don't do anything until I tell you. Just wait for the instructions, okay? Looking at whatever the food is that you want to eat. Touching it. I see somebody rolling something around in her hands. Touching it, feeling the texture, smelling it. Bring it to your nose. If you can, smell it. And I also like to think about where it came from. Is it produce? Is it some kind of food that's been prepared in some way? Thinking about where it came from and who the possible people were that might have touched it on its route to where it is right now with you. And notice as you're doing that, has your sense of hunger changed at all? Now, I'd like you to take a small particle of the food that you have. I see a couple of people with bananas. If you just want to take a small bite of your banana or whatever it is you're holding, and hold it in your mouth if you can. You may not be able to hold it in your mouth, but what I'm going to suggest is that you just take a small mouthful and hold that particle of food in your mouth, noticing, paying attention before you start to do anything, before you start to chew or anything, noticing what it feels like to hold food in your mouth. We're just going to do it for a few seconds. I want you to be mindful. Note that word, mindful. What does it feel like to have food in your mouth? Can you notice what it tastes like? Don't put anything else in your mouth right now. Now I'm giving you permission to go ahead and chew whatever it is you have in your mouth. Just chew it. Noticing, being mindful of the changes that are taking place in your mouth as you chew whatever the food is you have there. And if you have the impulse to swallow, go ahead and do that. But you might notice that that you have increased salivation as you're chewing. You might notice that there are changes in the texture, the flavor, the consistency of the food you're eating as you chew it. Just being mindful of that. And I see someone taking a drink. That's a good way to cleanse your palate. I'm glad you're doing that. So now that you've had a mouthful of food, notice how your sense of hunger has changed. Is it different now than it was before you started? Before you had that first bite? You feel hungry for more food now? Maybe yes, maybe no. I see a head nodding. Okay. So if you are feeling hungry for more food, we can go through through these steps again. You may take one small bite of whatever the food is that you have in front of you, and mindfully noticing what it feels like, what it tastes like, the impulse to chew. How often do you pay attention to how you're chewing? I know different people have different things in front of them, but how often do you pay attention to how you move your teeth, your jaws, how you move your tongue, how much saliva your body is producing? How often do you pay attention to those things? I'm suggesting you pay attention to it right now. And noticing, if you can, when you swallow, what does it feel like as you're swallowing whatever the article of food is, or if it's a beverage, whatever it is you put into your mouth. Noticing the swallowing process. So you might notice what it feels like going down your esophagus, and you might also notice it entering your stomach. It depends what you're eating and how quickly it goes down. See, I'm taking a drink of water. And I can feel the water going down my esophagus because water moves pretty quickly. But different foods will do different things. So that being said, would you like to take one more bite before we move on? Go ahead. On your own, noticing how big your bite is. What is your impulse to take a large bite or a small bite? These things are under your control. This is mindfulness of eating. You can do this with anything. I especially recommend doing it with things that I put in the special treat category, like the apple pie, like the sweets and the goodies and the special things that we have for the holidays that we're phasing out of our lives right now that the holidays are over. Now, I would like to ask if anybody has any comments, any thoughts or feelings about this exercise that we just did. If you do want to say how it was for you, if you want to ask any questions, if you have any comments about how it felt, you can unmute yourselves, right? So if you have anything you want to say or questions you want to ask, go ahead and do so. While I'm waiting for people to speak, I'm just going to tell you that in my work as a dietitian, I have to say that I've met so many people who have reflux, who have GERD. And the first question I always ask is, how quickly do you eat? And I can't tell you how many times in asking that question, I'll get sheepish looks from the people I'm talking to. And they'll say, I know I eat too fast. I know I should slow down. I should chew my food more carefully. I'm not going to tell you to chew a mouthful of food 30 times. I don't think that makes much sense. But I will say that if we eat slowly, attentively, and pay attention to our feeling of hunger before we start eating, pay attention to how we're feeling, the satisfaction we're experiencing as we're eating, and fullness, if and when that happens. Paying attention to those things is one of the most effective ways of limiting what we eat. If you don't like the size you are, think about, well, first of all, think about why, what size you would like yourself to be and where that came from. And that's another set of questions for another day. But thinking about why you eat the way you do, why you eat the amount you eat. And let me also remind you, coming out of the holiday season, since we have so many, we have had so many treats available to many of us, let me just remind you that when you're eating, the first mouthful is what is the most intense. And your level of satisfaction, try noticing this the next time you sit down to a meal. As you're eating, the level of satisfaction with the special treat foods decreases with each mouthful. The most intense flavor is noticeable in the first bite. Do I see, did some people put something in the chat? Oh, I see. Okay, I'm sorry, I hadn't looked at the chat. Okay. So someone said, yes, someone said tastes stronger. Absolutely, tastes stronger. And why do people binge eat? Very good question. People binge eat, it's a very, very common problem. And people binge eat for a number of different reasons. If you are one of them, you might want to stop and take a mindful moment like we did in our brief meditation. If you feel the urge to binge, having a practice of stopping before putting something into your mouth can really help you to get in touch with the urge to eat when it may not be in our best interest to eat. So people very often binge eat because they're uncomfortable about something. And that's where mindfulness comes in. When we sit and quiet ourselves and pay attention to our breath and transition from what we were doing before into just sitting, we may be able to say to ourselves, you know, I feel a binge coming on. I feel the impulse to eat. but I know that I just had an argument with somebody. Or I know that I got an upsetting phone call or a piece of mail or email. I know that something else is going on besides being hungry, because I know that it's only been a short time since I ate. People often binge eat because they feel uncomfortable, because they feel tension, and they don't know what else they can do besides eating. Food is easy, and I know with the pandemic, a lot of us are in the house much more often with more food around us. So it's much easier to turn to food when we feel uncomfortable than it might be under other circumstances. But most of the time when people are binging, it's because they're uncomfortable about something. And that's where mindful eating, mindfulness of our feelings, can make a huge difference in whether or not we binge eat. And I'm not going to promise anybody that eating mindfully is going to completely stop binge eating. And of course, I don't know how many of you have issues with that or questions about that, but it certainly can reduce the extent to which people overeat if they pay attention, if we pay attention to what we're feeling inside when the urge to eat comes on. It can either circumvent that, but you can circumvent it by doing other things. You could take a walk. If you like to exercise, exercise could be a nice something else to do. You might even need to take a nap. Sometimes when people think they're hungry, they're really tired, so sometimes just sitting and paying attention to whatever feelings are going on can be helpful. So I hope that answers the question about binge eating. So let's put the I'm going to stop my screen sharing, and I'm going to put all of you up on my screen so I can see. Does anybody have any questions, any thoughts, any comments on what we just talked about? There are so many things we could cover in this conversation about eating mindfully. So, so if you have a question, if you have a comment, if you have something you want to say, please go ahead and unmute yourself.